So it talks about one abiding in the body, deluded by Maya. He does everything. In the waking state, he obtains great satisfaction through the varied enjoyment of food, woman, and drink, etc. Paritrupti. Yes, thank you. Now, when you talk of this, how he says everybody is preoccupied finding satisfaction in women, food, and drink. Everybody is entangled, is caught up in this exercise of seeking the lower pleasures. When one is caught up in the process of seeking enjoyment in the objects and beings of the world, most of humanity, most of their lives are caught up in something external. They hardly have time to look beyond the external and go inward and explore what lies within. So because of getting caught up and entangled in woman, food, and drink, what is the abhyasa, which is mentioned in the 10th mantra? Sorry, in the 11th mantra. In the 11th mantra, he says, Jnana Nirmathana Abhyasa, from the churning through the sustained practice of knowledge. So the churning here is the practice. The practice here refers to the negation of the lower and the assertion of the higher. Now, what I want you all to connect is the process of negation and assertion. And the other thing, he refers to how humanity in the waking state, because the mantra 12 and 13 talks of waking, dream, and deep sleep. But in the waking state, where are you occupied? Where are you preoccupied? You're preoccupied in the process of gaining satisfaction through woman, food, and drink. So what is the abhyasa? So when I say the negation of the lower, what is lower, what is higher is purely subjective, isn't it? What is lower for you may be higher for me. What is higher for you may be lower for me. It's purely subjective. Now, doesn't matter what you perceive as lower or higher, but as a matter of principle, when he says negate the lower, it means you negate the value you give to the things and beings in the world. So when I say you must negate, for example, negate enjoyment, which is symbolized as woman, negate wealth, which is acquisition, it doesn't mean there is a taboo attached to woman and wealth. So that there's no taboo associated with your association. So we don't have to take it literally that the Shastras have anything against with your association with the world. One extremity is you put on an ochre robe and say, I will have nothing to do with the world. 99.99% of the world cannot fit into this category. You take them in, I'm hungry, you want to go for food. There's no food. I will not eat food because I can't go into a restaurant and enjoy food. Forget enjoying. You can't even walk into a restaurant and eat. I can't do this, I can't do that. So that kind of a strict imposition, it could be imposed because of tradition or it could be self-imposed. None of us or majority of humanity can't fit into the category. But then where is the abhyasa? Where is the opportunity for them or the 99.99% of people, of humanity, to pursue the higher? So the negation here refers to the value you set to anything that you pursue, that you are engaging in. It is not in as much as not associating, it is the value you set to whatever you associate. So once you have dropped a value for any sense enjoyment or material acquisition, you are practicing negation of that pursuit. To that extent, when you have negated it, it becomes non-essential for you. So the negation of the lower is all that which is non-essential. Vis-a-vis, the assertion becomes the essential. In the highest standpoint, everything is non-essential. From the highest standpoint, you name anything with your life, everything has no reference, no relevance to the self. Why is it that everything that you're dealing with has no relevance or reference to the self? Because if you had read the 11th mantra, he said that everything is completely deluded by illusion, isn't it? The Maya, he says everything is Maya, illusion. From the highest point of view, everything that you are engaging with is Maya, is illusion. Don't tell me you understand that. Neither do I understand, nor should you understand, because I don't have the wisdom to give it to you. So how will you understand it? Unless you have got it from elsewhere. In bits and pieces, we gather that it's illusion, but yet if you say, yes, sir, I understand that everything is illusion, the acid test to that is you should not be caught up in it. How can an illusory snake bite you? How can the illusory world affect you? When the world doesn't exist, how can it bother you? And yet you're bothered by some aspect of the world, isn't it? Something is, you're carrying the world in your head, it bothers you, it disturbs you. So everything in the world, as he says, is a Maya, an illusion. So it has got nothing to do with the self. But that's a very highest standpoint. Now, how to taper that concept, how to look at things as non-essentials. How do you perceive a thing as lower? I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Today, there are things that is consuming you. Today, there are things that consume your time, resource, energy. They're everything for you. Now, how do you perceive? How do you convert that into lower? That's the question. Are you able to get the question? Kashish, can you repeat the question or what you understand?
Hi, Guruji. The question, as I understand it, was, how do you perceive something as lower or non-essential?
With reference to oneself, isn't it?
With reference to oneself, yes.
So today, something preoccupies you, something consumes you. All right. There's something that interests you, isn't it? It could be Zumba dance, or it could be traveling, or it could be skiing, it could be socializing, or whatever it could be. You don't perceive it as non-essential, do you? Example. If anything that fascinates you, if anything that interests you, if everything that something that gives you joy, and satisfaction. The mantra says, in the waking state, you're caught up with women, food, and drink, referring to external and internal enjoyments, something. So you may take one thing out and put something else. So something that one is caught up in. I may be seeking enjoyment somewhere else, you may be seeking enjoyment somewhere else. So the sadhana for you and me, for all of us, is how do I look at it as non-essential? Because ultimately, tomorrow when you grow out of something, you look back 6 months, 2 years back into your life. Okay, 2 years back, Kashish, something that fascinated you. Is it necessary that it should fascinate you today?
No.
Would it interest you as much as it did 2 years ago or 5 years ago?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Why wouldn't it interest you or fascinate you?
Because you have grown and changed, or through the metaphor, you've dropped the lower and taken the higher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, that has happened because of time, because of growth and change. Now here we are trying to expedite growth. We are trying to embrace wisdom and grow out of things. So it necessitates that you change your perception to life or look at life differently. It necessitates that how can I not get carried away with what I'm doing now? It's also possible that what I'm engaged today will seem non-essential down the road, isn't it?
Yes.
But do you want to wait until you grow with time, or I create the change now, or change the perception now? Lower means the value for it, not stop doing. I already established that. Now, again, come back to the question. What's the question?
How do you perceive something as lower or non-essential to the self?
How do you perceive something as lower? How do you convert something which you're engaged in and consumed by? How do you convert something that you're engaged in and consumed by into as a lower? Any thoughts, Kashish? How do you do that?
The only thought that comes to mind, Guruji, I know you said it doesn't involve stopping doing the thing completely. But in my personal experience, when I've had to kind of reevaluate my priorities, what often helps is temporarily taking a step back, in the sense that even if it's just for like a day or like an hour from the thing that I'm pursuing. Because when you get a glimpse of what your life is like without it, it seems less urgent, or it seems less like all-consuming.
So you're talking about withdrawing from something.
Just temporarily, not completely, and not in the long term, but even if it's just for like a short period of time, because then when you go back to it, obviously if it's like work or something that you need to do to sustain the physical body, like earn money or things like that, you can't withdraw from it completely realistically. But even just temporarily taking a break from it, because then when you go back to it, you have a different perception of, you have a sense of what your life is like without it, and that's a reference frame for like reevaluating how much you value it on its own.
I get that. It's a beautiful point. In fact, one of the points in other contexts we use is withdrawal from the world and using that time for self-reflection or introspection, or in the process of doing manana. When you do that, these two help as a pedals to growth. So it starts with withdrawing. So you build that inner strength. Great. Beautiful point. Great, Kashish. So that way, perhaps you will start looking at something which is consuming you and say, man, why am I wasting so much of my time there? Why am I getting carried away with it? Why am I getting overwhelmed with it? Why am I getting bogged down with it? Why am I complaining? So something that is consuming you should not make any much sense to you. Why am I running around like this? Like a chicken without a head? And nobody should tell you. Something within you should tell you that. So what should you do to trigger that spark? And it's beyond doubt that in time you'll grow out of it, and you will see the childishness of something that you are caught up in, you are attached to. You will see your own childishness. Not others laughing or scoffing at you. You will laugh at your own childishness, man. What did I hold on to so childishly? I couldn't let go. What should you do? Or how do you convert? Lakshmima, hope your audio is resolved. No, we still can't hear you. Do you have any earphones? Try to use the earphone. Maybe that would help you resolve the audio issue. Okay. Reddy Garu, any thoughts?
Guruji, as Kashish was mentioning about withdrawing from the present context, like either we have an addiction or we have been too much involved and engrossed into the day-to-day activities or specific targets. Your point is that how the triggering and spark comes, saying that what we are doing is something is not make any meaning in the life, and how should I withdraw? Is a spark? How is that we can able?
Sir, first to withdrawal is switch off the phone, sir.
Yeah, switch off. Sorry.
Switched off, sir. No. So it's a divinely help, sir.
Yes, come the right time.
So this 1 hour 15 minutes, I have withdrawn from the world. What come may, I'm not available for the world.
That's true. I agree.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, no. Here the thing is now how that wisdom, how that intellect will come into that is the first and most point, saying that I should withdraw, or I'm spending too much of time. Like we spend so much. I'm just saying that on the get connecting to the mobile majority of the time. Let us say, how do we watch that? How much of time we have been spending and just getting into so much of socializing on that? Is it make sense, or is it going to add any value to us? This is something where we're talking about in self-realizing that what we are doing actions and make a note of it. And the first way of looking in that, and how the next question comes to how do we practice our withdrawing? That is the most challenging thing. One is we know that something which we are doing is not right in action. And second is how do we correct into the right action? So the fundamental challenge which I always come across is that how do we know that what we are doing? Because always we think that what we are doing is 100% right. Either chasing a target. I've been saying that, like I've been also seeing some of the corporate ladders where we chased and I gone to the level and I understood the pains and they slowly started withdrawing. But when I seen others who have been running the race, I feel so empathetic to their efforts and energies there in that. Of course, doesn't mean that I have that ability to go and tell them because they look me as a different thing. So I said, this gentleman is going to the same situation, or we're going to fall prey. Like I just taken a context, Guruji, if you permit. I was just reading an article about Dave yesterday on Byju's. I think there is an online platform of education platform. If you really see the biography of the gentleman, he was one of the good teacher. And whomever he taught there in the students, I think the 80 to 90% of success getting in the IITs and the best of the entrance exams. Now he got into this business and he is aggressively promoted and is one of the reckoned names in Indian online education. If you see, and yesterday's is one of the interview, he says, I am sleepless for last 6 months. I am not getting sleep. The reason is that that company which is grown currently is having 4,800 crores of loss. 4,800 crores loss is in the books and he's finding the investors. He's in a different way of addressing the issues. If he really realized it, where he was teaching comfortably, making an education more comfortable to the people, how the life could have been. But this is what realizations do happen after really you burn your energies and experience that. So the point of context here, getting back to the triggering and the spark, that what we are doing wrong is a time.
So it's not necessarily that you are wrong. See, we are not saying you're wrong now and you'll only be right in the future. No, it's to look at your activity which is consuming your time, resource, and energy. You would consider it as a dissipation of energy.
Yes.
It said, man, why am I wasting my time on this? It means it means nothing to me. It means it has lost its charm for you.
But that will be that wisdom will know only when you go through that, when you experience it.
Now, do you mean to say that there is no other way but to experience it and grow out of it? I did make that point to Kashish, let time heal, time make you grow out of it, and then you realize the futility of what I did 5 years ago. You mean to say, I must allow time to teach me? I must let experience teach me? There are two ways of learning, sir. One is experience, other is knowledge, isn't it? We are here trying to inject that wisdom into our lives, so that how can I see the futility in what I'm doing now? That will only trigger a possibility of investing in something better.
That means we need to really spend our time on self-reflections. Because that's hardly we do. I think we say that once in the end of the day, evening before you go to bed and recollect what's been happening is one aspect of it, because millions of actions might have happened that's really may not be helpful. But every moment to moment before we getting into any decision or action or involving, I think there is some amount of, like we're talking about it as take back and self-reflect it, what I'm doing really makes sense or not, or being too much of getting consumed onto that sort of worldly affairs.
Yeah, it is a constant awareness, a lot of reflection, a lot of withdrawal, but we're looking at some essential points which can help us change our outlook to life.
Like one of your example, you're mentioning that when there was an invitation for a marriage, you think twice whether how to balance it. Of course, equally socially required to be your presence, but which is that higher, which is a lower, where we try to create a platform, then you take a call on that. I think that's where, whether it is small or big, the reflection, self-reflection is the most crucial part on a moment to moment.
It's an awareness. When it's a reflection, it's a certain awareness, Right. You are able to relate to the idea. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Lakshmima, is it sorted out? Don't think so. We still can't hear you. What a pity. Yes, Gayatri Ma?
She's talking, but she's not able to, we are not able to hear.
Ah, yes. Yes, Ma. No, no, we still can't hear you, Ma. Okay. Right. Shivaji, you were saying Neti is a technical way of how it is conveyed. But to say the word Neti, not this, requires a lot of wisdom. So how do I cultivate that process of saying Neti? You know, everything is temporary, Rajima, correct? But how not to be, how to look at it as a transient aspect of life. See, I'm not saying what you all are saying is wrong, but I'm saying that the thought process must be to make this, to bring about a shift at every stage, you know. How to convert. A couple of other points that could be helpful is, first important point I think Kashish made is that withdrawal, self-assessment, awareness. The other important point is the more you associate with a superior intellect, or the more you associate with higher knowledge. So one is the withdrawal. When you withdraw, what do? You have to associate with the higher knowledge. That gives you a lot of input. It gives you a higher thought. It plants a higher seed. And that gives you an opportunity to cling on to the higher. And that also, yes, Sushma, just give me a minute. I'll certainly come to you. I'm sorry, I didn't see you raising hand. So, what is it we are saying is create as much an opportunity to create satsang. Satsang is to create the right conducive environment so that the higher thought comes into you. And that expedites the process of, as you engage in the lower, what comes about is a strong guilt. And it's the guilt that you experience as you are engaging in the lower, the guilt that pricks you from within from continuing to do something which you are comfortable doing. You will not be as comfortable. Why is it? Because of the constant association with the higher and the withdrawal and that opportunity to examine that higher knowledge. When you do that, so the more you expose yourself to the higher, to the satsang, the perception to what you're doing changes. And the way that you can't continue comfortably doing is the guilt that comes out of what you have been doing before. You can't do the same thing now. You feel a sense of revulsiveness. And slowly but surely, you will drop it. Because you can't carry on with guilt for long. Yes, Sushma.
Guruji, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Guruji, if I look at my own life, from that I can give it sort of an example. I was exposed to the Gita when I was probably in my 30s. And from that, so I would say knowledge helps you. And I started getting interested more and more to read spiritual listened to satsangs. And Swami Chinmayanandaji had come to Bombay, and I first listened to him. And that sort of, made me get really interested. And I went and bought the book, and I started reading the Gita. And then gradually, I used to always want to listen to Swami Parthananji used to come to Bombay. Then the more I listened, the more I got interested. And I used to enjoy that more. At that time, I didn't know, but I enjoyed the going there more than going to these kitty mornings and, coffee mornings and all. And I used to started feeling what a waste of time. We go there, we have coffee and drinks, then we gossip about people, or we play tambola, and then we come back. And I used to feel what a waste of a morning. So I gradually got more and more interested into listening to satsangs, and for that. And I was also lucky because then from Bombay, we came to Delhi, and then I got introduced to my guru there from Arpana Trust, whom I've been working all these years into the slums. And then also I started getting exposure to work, doing social work. Means instead of wasting my time at home, my children had grown up, I used to go to the slums, and I started working there and spending more time reading the scriptures, and gradually listening to more satsangs. And then Pinky introduced me to your satsangs. I started listening to you more often. So the more and more I was listening, the less I was enjoying the other things in life. And now, with COVID also coming for 2 years, I was quite happy being at home. I didn't care if I didn't go out. So probably it's my age also. Other people are younger and they want to do other things. And I'm quite happy because I try to, whatever I read, as you say, reflection, get up in the morning and reflect and all, and try to put whatever I understand into practice. And I think it's probably how well you are exposed to these things. And basically it will come down to, I think, knowledge first and experience, then experiencing it. Even the type of books you read. I used to enjoy reading these books about stories about crime and this and that. Now I don't want to read those again. Many years ago, I stopped reading. Then I was interested in reading biographies of people who have done good things. So gradually, I thought my interest also started changing. And then wanting to spend more time helping people, trying to do, just say you say, how do you do seva, tan, man and dhan? So that influenced me at what age I can do what. So I think it also, you have to be lucky that you are exposed to good things in life. And then you start negating automatically you start negating. It's not that you have to tell yourself that I mustn't do this, I mustn't do that. And that's my experience in life, that I just started feeling uninterested in those things.
Mm.
So I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but.
No, you're spot on. You're always spot on, So the wonderful experience which you have shared conveys what we are saying. The more you have chosen to associate with the knowledge and the wisdom and the satsangs, brought about a change in your attitude, your interests. It obviously influences your thought patterns and the choices you make. And the result of that is you lose a certain passion for things which others are clamoring. You have no value for it. But one thing I learned from you, I think now I also must stop attending kitty parties and tambolas. That is my addiction. I must say I should also stop that. Thanks for all the wisdom, Sushma. I've learned something. It is one of my weakness. I was told in the public now. Kitty party and tambola is my weakness. So hopefully with little wisdom, I will get over that. Gayatri Ma, will you help me, Ma, please? Why? What, Gayatri Ma? You're not saying yes also?
Sometimes I myself being dragged into it, Guruji.
Huh? So look at her. Huh? Right. So I'll help you. You help me, Ma. We both will help each other. We all should help each other evolve. Right. Haresh, you're able to find a relevance because the principle what we're talking has a unique application in each different areas for each one of us. What you can apply it in areas where it will relate to you, but the principle is the same.
Yes, Guruji, I find myself not liking very loud noises anymore and crowded places. I find a lot of joy being on my own or with a very very few people.
Right.
Yeah, I've come to that stage now. Anything that's too loud and anything, I just withdraw from it now. I can't take it. It's just too intense. I like it everything very very mellow and soft and subdued now. I don't like anything loud and crazy like maybe 15 or 10 years ago. I can't take it anymore. So the threshold has changed a lot on that.
Because the sattva in you has risen, no?
Yes.
The more sattvic you become, the choices you make, all changes. When talking of books reading and all, other day Vaishnavi had told me, Dad, can you bring that book from my bag? I said, okay. What book should I get from the bag? There's one book on ghosts. What? Okay, I'll bring. And I said, but I'm very afraid to pick up that book of ghosts. No, don't worry, Daddy, there are no ghosts there. But please bring that book, she said. Yeah. Some novel she's reading, She said, it's very interesting. But I said, when I read that, I put on all the lights and read, she said. I don't want to read with my bed lamp. Why? Daddy, don't tease me, she says. So hopefully she also will drop the ghosts and pick up the KAIVALYOPANISHAD and read one day. Enna Reddy garu. So
I think wisdom should start from home, Guruji.
correct. Sir, wisdom should start from me first. Forget home. It should start from me. I said I must drop the kitty party. I told no. Kitty party and tambola. Wonderful. I was just joking, but so coming back to the 12th and the 13th mantra. So in the 12th mantra, he spoke of being in the waking state. One finds great satisfaction through varied enjoyment of woman, food, and drink. Now, in the dream state, that very individual experiences joy and sorrow. Okay. Swapne sajiva sukha dukkha bhoktaha. Sukha dukkha. He experiences bhoktaha is enjoying. He enjoys, he goes through the experience of sukha and dukkha. In the whole imagined world projected by his own Maya. Can we have the translation now, please? The 12th and 13th. So in the dream state, that very individual, which is the very individual? The individual who's caught up in chasing woman, food, and drink in the waking state. As a waker, who is the waker? The waker is the personality who you think you are now. Harish is the waker. Gayatri is the waker. So the waker experiences certain things, but the same waker, when he goes into the dream state, individual experiences sukha and dukkha, joy and sorrow. Swamayaya. by his own Maya. Kalpita Vishwaloke, in the whole imagined world. The dream is an imaginary world. There is no reality of its own. There is no reality of its own. To whom? The world which the dreamer experiences has no reality to the waker or the deep sleeper. But for the dreamer, he is experiencing joy and sorrow. And then he says, in the deep sleep, Sushuptikale Sakale Viline Tamo Bibhuta Sukharupameti. In the deep sleep, where everything dissolves, overcome by tamas. Sakale viline. Sakale viline means everything is dissolved, overcome by tamas, ignorance, tamo vibhuta, sukharupameti. He attains the state of bliss. Now, before I get to this, there's a beautiful saying by Omar Khayyam, the famous Persian poet. Omar Khayyam says, a very famous quote. Yogesh, I want to ask you whether you've heard this quote, sir. I know you are a great reader. Omar Khayyam said, a glass of wine, a book of verse, and thou besides me, this wilderness is paradise. I repeat. Sorry, sir.
He said something about the glass of wine,
Yeah.
saying about, is it half full or half empty? And that's he was referring to.
Omar Khayyam?
I'm not, somebody said, I'm trying to remember. Was it Umar Khayyam or no, it was not Umar Khayyam. Some another Persian philosopher, he said something about that.
Was it Gibran?
Yes.
I think Khalil Gibran says that.
Yes, Khalil Gibran, yes.
But here he says, Umar Khayyam says, a glass of wine, a book of verse, and thou besides me, this wilderness is paradise. This refers to in the waking state of woman, food, and drink. He's talking about the enjoyment. Umar Khayyam, or Umar Khayyam, huh? Khayyam, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying Umar Khayyam. Thanks, Rajima. There's so much wisdom around me, I keep getting guided, Rajima, please give me that little wisdom how to drop the kitty party and tambola also. That bit I'm not able to drop. It is... Kashish, you have dropped it, I know, long ago. But look at it, where I'm stuck. Right. Hariji, what is the meaning of this quote, Hariji? Thanks, Yogeshi. Enge sir, where are you? You are in you're not in Hyderabad.
I am unwell.
Unwell, what does it mean in Hyderabad?
I am in Hyderabad.
You're in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
Hope you get well soon, sir.
Thank you.
So you are able to understand what that quote means?
Not completely.
So the glass of wine, a book of verse, and thou besides me, those three what he refers to, this wilderness is paradise. So referring to these three, what does wilderness mean? English meaning of wilderness. Rajima, shall we ask Rajima? Solungo Hariji, what is your understanding of wilderness?
Hariom Guruji, could it mean the nature, the environment? As a poet sitting in the amidst nature?
But he's saying, he's not talking about the nature here, he's talking about the wine, book and thou. This wilderness.
This painful experience.
You mean wilderness is the painful experience?
Yeah.
But how can that be paradise?
Appear to be paradise, but it is really painful.
No, he's not saying appearing, it is paradise, he's saying. He's not saying appears to be paradise. You're adding words into Umar Khayyam. See, wilderness is something which you have neglected, no?
Yeah.
Anything which is neglected, which is disregarded, is wilderness. So when you consider these three, when do these three becomes wilderness?
When I have got something higher.
Correct. So when you are associated with the higher, all of these three, all that which you are engaged with is wilderness. Supposed to be consuming your life, but that becomes wilderness when you are associated with the higher. So when you identify with the higher, all three is wilderness. That is when your life becomes a paradise.
Or in other words, the life is a paradise bereft of these things.
Ama. Every now and then you go and visit Paradise restaurant and you say paradise, paradise. That doesn't mean those of you who are coming to Hyderabad, we shall introduce you to paradise. Subhashji, very sorry. Other day when you came to Hyderabad, we didn't take you to paradise. So this is one of the official things the foundation will take up in the future. Gayatri Ma, we shall. Shantima, are you there? Shantima, correct. Shantima is actually visiting us from Malaysia and spending some time in the institute next month for a week or so. So everybody is looking forward for your visit here, Ma. So one of them will take you to paradise. Paradise biryani. Huh? Subhashi, please, whenever you come next, we shall take you to paradise biryani. Gayatri Ma?
Sure.
No, Guruji, I don't have good opinion about paradise biryani, so I will not take them.
Oh, you will not take them. Okay, we'll find somebody else who can take them. Maniji looks like he is very well experienced, so Maniji will take. So the point we are making here, Umar Khayyam is saying is, once you have that identification with the higher, everything becomes, you're able to rise above the sorrow and suffering of the worldly transactions. Everything is a paradise. Okay. Now, so in the dream state, one experiences joy and sorrow. As he says, in the dream, the individual experiences joy and sorrow in the whole imagined world projected by his own Maya. So the whole dream world is a projection of the waker's mind. The biggest mistake that we do not do, what is the biggest mistake we do not do with reference to the dream? You think it is non-essential, but nobody does that. It's very essential to do that. one of the biggest mistake we don't do with reference to the dream is we never analyze a dream. If you, after you wake up, whatever you can recall of your experiences in the dream, if you were to analyze it, you will realize the absurdity of your experience. Because suddenly you will be dreaming that you have attended the funeral of Queen Elizabeth. Because every time you put on the any international news channel, you're only seeing that. So suddenly attending Queen Elizabeth's funeral will be there in the dream. And then suddenly you'll be playing Tambola with Prince Charles. And then you'll be eating biryani with Guruji. All these three will come into your dream tonight. Kashish, what are the three things that will come into your dream tonight? I know you're very good at taking notes. I'm sure, I hope you have taken note of this. Don't tell me you have not taken notes of what Guruji said. When is it you've been so?
I took down realizing the absurdity of the experience, but I'll try. Dreaming of attending Queen Elizabeth's funeral, and something about Tambala, but I forgot with who, and then it was biryani with Guruji.
Okay. So biryani with Guruji, Tambola with Prince Charles, attending the funeral of Queen Elizabeth. All these three experience in the dream. Now later on, when you wake up and when you analyze the dream, what would you establish, as you wrote down, rightly so, the absurdity of the dream. So the dream world appears to be real as long as you are in the realm of the presence of the dream. The moment one steps out, the individual who steps out of the dream, the very same dream appears, it's a mere illusion. Isn't it? So you must analyze the dream. Analyze it, then you'll reject it. So you will understand the absurdity of the dream world. That's what he's saying. But we are all caught up in the dream. That's what he's saying. We're caught up in the projection. And in the deep sleep, he says, overcome by tamas. Tamo vibhuta. Overcome by tamas, which is ignorance. Everything in the deep sleep dissolves, as we understand deep sleep as a state of nothingness. You experience bliss. Bliss is defined as a state of no agitation. So when you go into that state of deep sleep, there is no mental agitation. There are no desires, because the desires have gone into the state of unmanifestation, which is the vasana. Vasana is an unmanifested, desire is a manifested state. So the unmanifest, when the vasanas go into their seed form, which is unmanifested, you experience what is bliss. So in deep sleep, when everything dissolves, means there is nothing happening, your mind is dead, there is no activity of the mind, overcome by tamas, ignorance, he attains a state of bliss. Bliss here is not the bliss of realization, here is the bliss of deep sleep. Because deep sleep is known as Anandamaya Kosha, which is Anandamaya means bliss sheath. So as a waker, what are you doing? Caught up, running behind woman. What are the thing you're running behind? Woman. food and drink. In the dream, you're caught up in a projection of your own mind. In the deep sleep, you are in ignorance, in sleep. And all of this is the play of the self expressing through the three bodies. When the self expresses through the gross body, you become the waker. When the self expresses through the subtle body, you become the dreamer. When the self expresses through the causal body, you become the deep sleeper. We have given this equation last week when we did the class, okay?